I had a dream the other night and I thought it was very interesting. So I'm going to share it because it had a really cool message come through. And I love those dreams where it's like you just need to know something and then it comes forward so life can move on. Anywho, I was sitting in little camp chairs with my ex-father-in-law, and we were just watching the sun set over the pasture next to their house. It was just a very real, like, right there dream and a deep conversation, which, like, I love my ex-father-in-law and my ex-mother-in-law. They're wonderful humans. But we never had conversations like this, so it was just an interesting dream conversation. But he was telling me that he feels stuck. You know, he's been reading the Bible and he was building a really good relationship with God and felt closer. And then all of a sudden, he got to Genesis 30 and he felt like that communication just isn't what it was. And he was frustrated with it and didn't understand why that connection he felt so close to God with was going away. And so then what I felt pulled to tell him in the dreams, this is where it's even weirder. Usually my dreams, the other person's telling me the knowledge, but I was telling him and sharing it with my self-conscious. Anyways, just coolness. But that, hold on. So the dream was that, or the message was that, he needed to open up. Maybe he's not being vulnerable enough and fully pouring out his heart to God. Like, we need to pour out our heart and be that connection. And I made a reference to Theo in the dream, which was, you know, like, even though Theo and I just love each other's company and just to be around each other, there is a difference in when we have deep, heartfelt conversations and pour out our feelings on different matters when we talk. There's just a whole different level of connection. So Jack is moving in this dream, moving past the surface level conversations and now needs to pour out his heart and be open and vulnerable and connect and not just acknowledge, yep, you're here, but be like, you're here and you're my best friend and I want you to know my inner workings. So I thought that was really interesting. And then I woke up and decided I should look at Genesis 30 because it was very clearly given to me in the dream. And this is where things get weird because I grew up very religious, but I don't necessarily... I'm very much working on my relationship with God, with like Abba, our Father, our true source of life, and the connection to earth and like the way that builds our relationship with God too. But I don't want a religion telling me how to do that. So the Bible being thrown in was interesting. I still view it as a very good book that has so much wisdom and does come from God in a sense, but I have questions. I'm not saying that the Bible is right or wrong or anything like that, just that I, right now, in my own journey, am in a questioning phase. So, anyways, I took it and we looked at Genesis 30, and the beginning is, well, Genesis 30 is when Jacob, who becomes Israel, when God changes his name. So that's where the Israelites come from. He is living with Laban, and he marries Laban's first daughter, Leah, and then marries his second daughter, Rachel. And Rachel is who he originally wanted to marry, but Laban made him marry the older one first, because that's just tradition. Anyways, you can read Genesis if you want more into that, because I'm not doing a full Bible lesson. Anyway, so Rachel could not have children, but Leah could have children, and it was just kind of the way it was because Rachel was the wanted one and Leah was pushed to the side. So Leah was always able to have children, and it hurt Rachel, and she would pray, and they did some interesting bargaining things to try to make it happen the way Rachel wanted it to, but it didn't work. And then finally, when she decided to pour out her heart to God and to share her feelings instead of just playing this human game with humans and trying to control it, he blessed her with Joseph. And he became very special to Jacob because that was like the child with the woman that he loved. But Rachel had to stop playing the human games and just depend on God and pour out her heart and not just view him as someone who's just sitting here, you know, taking the company and not actually building the relationship. So I thought that was really interesting because that totally coincided with what Jack was going through in my dream. And it also it's been a thing for me, like, I am seeing how we are like directly connected to God in my journey and have been taking it for granted that he's just here instead of pouring out my heart to him and sharing what I'm excited about, sharing what I'm thankful for, and sharing my struggles. Like, put the ego aside, because God can see right past that ego. Don't be silly and think he can't. So just be open and honest and trust and let that come through. So I thought that was really cool. There is another lesson that I want to share about this dream because I read further into Genesis 30. I read the whole chapter and there's another piece that was cool too, but I'm going to make that a second video because this one's already longer than normal. So, anyways, be vulnerable, open up, pour out your hearts to your higher source, whether you view it as like source, God, Allah, Abba, Jesus. That connection you have to spirit is what you need to be connecting to, like truly, not just superficially. Pour it out. It's here. It wants to be a part of your life. He wants to show you love. And I love you.